Oh, I'm trying to jump it, but... I'm going to be testing Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered on my RTX 4080 Super. I'm at 4K resolution, so we've got that set here. We've got DLAA on here. We do have upscaling, so DLSS upscaling and frame generation, but I've got those both switched off, so it's 4K native to start with. And then the rest of the graphics settings are set to the max. I was very impressed so far what I saw from this game. Graphically, it looks a lot better, I think, than the original game. I did play the original game, but I never completed it. It sort of got a bit boring for me. I think I had this similar issue with Forbidden West as well. But it seems like a lot of the graphics, so like the models and assets and environments, I think have been taken from Forbidden West and put into this. So everything seems a lot more vibrant and colourful. Not too bad performance either. We've got an average of 77, seeing it up into the 80s here at 4K with everything max. That's pretty good. Haven't seen it dip too much below 60. One or two areas, I think, earlier on in the game where it was a little bit heavier near water and stuff, in cave areas and stuff. But for the most part, staying way above 60. And even on the rest of the GPU, it's not too bad either, under 300 watts. 13 gigs of VRAM's fairly high. It's definitely creeping up a little bit towards our max of 16. Gonna see if we can maybe take something on, see what it's like in the combat. I don't know how easy are these things to kill. Are these things easy to kill? I'm thinking probably not. I might regret that. Yeah, this is not looking good, is it? Oh, God. What the hell's happened? Oh, my goodness. What was that explosion? That's probably not a good idea. In the combat back there, especially near the water, did see it dip down into the 60s a little bit, but for the most part, it's pretty good. No, not noticing any stuttering or nothing like that. Fairly, yeah, consistent performance-wise. I think performance probably isn't too different from the original game. It's more a graphics change and things like that. I think some of the story has changed a little bit as well. I'm going to take a look now with DLSS and frame generation. So I've got the upscaling set to quality and I've got frame generation on there. We should see a fairly big increase in FPS. Looks like we're breaking 120 there, so that's quite a big jump. Almost doubles our FPS. We had roughly, 70 to 75, so it's not quite, but fairly big increase there. It's a little bit of a shame we can't get to the 4K 144, which is my refresh rate, kind of the ideal scenario. But I think the game overall still looks pretty nice. Not noticing any difference in image quality. No issues with latency. I wouldn't have thought we'd expect too much there, because our FPS was fairly high natively before we switched that on, so that's not really a problem. What's going on down here? VRAM has jumped up a little bit though. 14 gig now, so definitely getting closer to that 16. But one issue I was noticing is if I go back into the settings here, and if I just switch off frame generation, I wasn't really seeing as big of an increase with frame generation on versus off. Like, look at this here, we're still getting 100 to 110. So really, we're only gaining maybe at best 20 FPS with frame generation, which really isn't that great. I would have thought I'd expect just a little bit more. At least from what we've seen in other games. Leave me alone. Oh God, no ammo. I'm now going to take a look with just frame generation on, so I've got DLSS upscaling switched off. And we're getting roughly about the same. I think I was maybe being a little bit harsh on it. It seems like singularly, so with just frame generation on or with just DLSS upscaling on, at least quality, you gain about 20 to 30 with both. So overall it's about a 50 to 60 range, which is roughly what we're seeing, up to 120. It just, I don't know, for some reason for me it just seemed like slightly less than what I was expecting. I don't know if, I think I may be just being a bit harsh now, I'm not quite sure. We've definitely gained more in other games before. I think obviously it does vary game to game. You don't necessarily always gain the same amount. But I think in other games I've definitely been more impressed. It seems more recently. Seem to definitely be getting less performance with that recently. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I guess maybe leave a comment on the videos to what you think about it. If you're thinking the similar thing, or is it just I'm just imagining it maybe. One thing I have noticed though is if I go back here with upscaling and we go to FSR, so put that on quality and then we put on FSR3 frame generation. If I apply that here, for whatever reason, we don't seem to really get as much with FSR3. We seem to be more in the 100 to 110 range, where with DLSS, we do push maybe an extra 10 to 15 FPS on average more, which is a little unusual because normally on FSR3, I pretty much always get more frames with that. In most games that I test, it's very unusual that I'll get more with DLSS 3. AMD's frame generation always gives me more frames. But yeah, don't seem to really see that on this. It does drop my power a lot, 220, 230 there. So that's down quite considerably compared to DLSS. I'm now going to take a look at 1440p, so I've got that resolution set there. It is going to be native 1440p at first, so I do have DLAA on, but I've got no DLSS upscaling or frame generation or anything. And then graphics-wise, I've still got everything maxed out, so everything's set to very high or high. So we should have pretty significantly higher frames. Looks like we're getting about 130 at the moment, so quite a big jump. Still not quite hitting 144. A little bit of stuttering there as well, giving us a 0.1% low of 35, which is quite a bit lower than where we're actually at FPS wise. But overall though, I think with DLA on here, you definitely notice a difference at 1440p. I think I've always said I don't really feel like you see so much of a difference of that at 4K. It's more 1440p and 1080p I think you can notice, and where you benefit more from that. What's that there? Should we try a bit of combat here? See how the FPS deals with this combat. This could maybe be a bad idea. Can I hit it? It's not really attacking me. Okay, that's... spoke too soon. There we go. That's that one. There's another one here though. These are not too bad. Oh my god. Broke my arrow. I'm still at 1440p, but I'm going to take a look with DLSS and frame generation on. So I've got DLSS set to quality there, and I'll put frame generation on. I'll apply that and see what we're getting. We're just going to break 200, it looks like. That's a lot. 200 FPS at this, easily. Way over 144, which I'm not even benefiting from this 200. Only getting 144 on my screen. I am noticing some weird visuals in the distance. I don't know if you picked that up there on the video. Random... Not quite sure what it was because I caught it in the corner of my eye. I don't know if it's something popping in. Can I kill these things? Oh, I don't know how that's not hit me. And I will, probably what I'll do here is just switch frame generation off, so I'll still keep DLSS quality on. I'll have a playthrough a little bit like this, because I know some people aren't too keen on using frame generation. Maybe go and check it out down here. Obviously that is going to drop our FPS down to 135. It's quite a bit lower than what we had 190 with frame generation on. That's quite a big gap. Whoa. And it may be interesting to see, actually, FSR3. If I switch FSR3 there to quality, and then I'll switch FSR3 frame generation on as well, I wonder if we see the same thing we saw at 4K, where we get slightly less. It does look like that 175, where we had 190 here, down into 160, 158. So definitely seeing the same issue there. I think that's going to be across the board on resolutions. Any resolution there, I think you're going to see less on FSR3 compared to Nvidia. Definitely noticing FSR in this game for me has this horrendous ghosting, especially on the leaves, when the leaves are blowing around in front of you. Look, you can, I don't know how well you'll be able to see that on on the video, but it's really bad. It's not so noticeable here, but in an area back towards the earlier on in the game, there was loads of leaves, or no, it was snow, I think. It was snowing, and obviously all the snow in front of you, and it had the most horrendous ghosting. I'm going to take a look at 1080p now, so I've got the resolution here. I am still at native, so native 1080p. We've just got DLAA, no upscaling and no frame generation, and then graphic settings is still maxed out. We should get some pretty nice frames like this. It's looking like we're getting over 150 there. It's dipping down a little bit though, 130. The moment I spoke, it dipped down back up to over 150 now. There's going to be some fluctuation in that there. Should mostly, hopefully, stay around at least an average above 144 would be nice. So at least you're playing 1080p 144 and above with everything maxed. Maybe see, I think this is the city or something up here. If I remember, it'd be interesting to maybe see how much FPS dips here. Might start to see GPU usage come down a little bit, which looks like we are 92, 95%. In this city, getting it dropped quite a lot, 120 FPS now. That's come down quite a bit, 91% GPU usage. I'm still at 1080p, but I'm going to take a look with upscaling and frame generation on now. So I've got it set to DLSS quality, and I've got frame generation on there. We should see a pretty big increase in FPS, which it looks like we are almost breaking 250 FPS there, which is huge. Huge difference. I'm thinking people probably wouldn't really play with these settings. I doubt 1080p 240 on the 4080 Super, in my opinion, is not really worth it. And especially in a game like this, I'd much rather have like good sort of looking graphics. Play it maybe something like 1440p with a balance between performance and good graphics quality as well. But just to really push it to see what what kind of FPS we can get at its max. So overall looks pretty good, sitting fairly close to that 250 average, 244 average at the moment. VRAM's actually still pretty high, I think. Over 10 gig at 1080p still seems fairly high. Do definitely benefit from having DLSS on, I think, with the anti-aliasing. Definitely looks better at 1080p. So FPS dropped down a little bit in the combat there, seeing it maybe into the 30s, 235. Still holds up fairly well though. I was seeing GPU usage drop a little bit too. If you've enjoyed this video, click one of the videos on the screen now to see me testing more GPUs, and I'll catch you next time.